Hi everyone, hope you're all keeping well. Sorry now that I had to make another YouTube video or another PowerPoint video for you. My problem is my internet is absolutely shocking in my house, and whenever I do PowerPoints, it ends up freezing and stalling. So I think this is around the best idea. Plus, on top of it too, you can go back and check out any slides that you have questions about or to check back in different points. So some people find it a bit easier to do it this way, other people don't like it. So just let me know by sending me an email if you have any questions or queries about it. As you know, today we're going to continue with the religious symbols, and we're going to have a bit of a peer review. Now, by that I mean we're going to just take a look at some of the different PowerPoints that people have been creating, and we're going to be taking a look at some people's mind maps and PowerPoints just to see how people are getting on. I've received nearly all of them now. I'm waiting still for around 5 or 6 more students just to submit their work. Um, some people are finished their PowerPoints, other people are only on the mind map part. There's no rush to finish your PowerPoint, don't worry. I've gotten a good few of them in, but I would prefer if you just took your time and pace yourself through it, as we have a good bit of time. So at the moment, last week's class, you were looking at the mind maps and how to lay out your mind map using the IBIS app, and I was delighted to see the different the different mind maps that I was sent in. They were absolutely fantastic, and we'll be looking at some of them today. Now, if you have any questions, as I said, make sure you email me. Some people wanted to know about the actual PowerPoint and the process of it and how it's going to work. So what my plan is that during the lockdown until we get back into class, we're going to be creating this PowerPoint. So we're going to be investigating different aspects of symbolism through religion, okay, as the title says. So that's kind of looking at the different flags that use different symbols, looking at the different meaning behind it, the different origins of the symbols, and looking at basically why we use different symbols for religion. Okay, so um, once we are finished our PowerPoints and we're back in class, then we're going to be presenting these to the rest of the class. So you're going to be standing up at the front of the class where I or doing my job, basically doing what I usually do, and you're going to be presenting to the rest of your classmates the PowerPoint that you've created. Now, as I know, there's some people have messaged me saying they don't like standing up in front of people and presenting stuff. I totally understand. It can be quite daunting. So if you prefer, what you can do is on your PowerPoint, you can just go into the slideshow presentation section of it and click record and do a voiceover record, kind of like this PowerPoint, and you can walk people through it. Or else you can even go onto a voice generator where you just type in what you wanted to say and it'll say it back. So if you prefer doing it that way, that's no problem. It might sound a bit robotic, but there is some good apps out there, right, where you can get good voiceovers. Okay, so don't worry if you don't feel confident enough to do a stand-up presentation. I totally understand it, and you can just find a way that suits you. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start here taking a look at a student's mind map. And as we can see, we have the Muslim religion, and we can see the different Islamic symbols used for that religion, and we have the moon and, or sorry, the crescent moon and star. Now, on the left-hand side, the way I've done this is I've just written some notes down just to kind of talk about the different mind maps. And I've selected just a handful of different mind maps and presentations that I was looking at just to kind of give us a feel for different ideas that were happening. Now, if your mind map or presentation wasn't shown, I'm very sorry. I've only selected just a few at random just to best suit this PowerPoint, so it wasn't that one is better than the other. Okay. So this mind map is very clear and shows where the students' ideas are going. It's important when starting your idea to keep it free and to give yourself room to explore different aspects of the religion and to explore elements that you have not heard of before. Okay, so it's important here that you can see they started with the crescent moon and the star, and they've taken a look at some of the flags that were in the first presentation, and they've saved some of the imagery. Then they've laid out some facts about it, that it's the world's second largest religion. It's also talked about what the meaning behind the symbol is, and it also identifies what they actually call the symbol. Okay, so that is the crescent moon and star. Now, it also talks about the different angles, and it gives you a few different points where it can go into. So I can get a good feel from this mind map alone where the student is going to bring their PowerPoint, that they might start off with outlining the Muslim religion and talk about its following. Then it might move on to what the actual meaning behind the symbolism is. So it might look at the actual symbol and look at the meaning. Then it might move on to the flag and or onto the different flags and move on to the fact that each flag has the crescent moon and star at a different angle and a different kind of shape, and then they can move into another avenue. Okay, so they might take a look at some other symbols used, or they might look at how it might be represented or misrepresented. Okay, so it's important when you're doing your project that you think about how it's used correctly and how it's used incorrectly, which we'll be seeing later. Now, here we're taking a quick look at Jainism. Okay, now Jainism is an Indian religion. It would be kind of like Buddhism. It's one of the four strains of Buddhism. But Jainism is one of the most peaceful religions we'll ever see or we see in today's culture. So, one of the things about Jainism is, as it's been outlined here, is that they won't eat any meat, that most of them are vegetarian. Now, Jainism goes as far as not even eating root-based plants because it would harm the earth, and they believe in not harming animals or not harming the earth and living a very, very peaceful life. Now, Jainism is a very interesting religion. I actually wasn't expecting to see it or see the symbols of Jainism come up in this project, but I'm delighted to see that there is. Um, Most of you mightn't have heard of Jainism or mightn't know what it is, but it's actually quite interesting. They live such a peaceful life that some of the monks do not wear any clothes. Um, a lot of the members of Jainists wear a mask across their mouth so that they won't inhale any bugs or any flies or anything or ingest anything. They also have around 6 million followers, and the majority of them are living in India at the moment. Now, their culture is very interesting. They believe in that there is no God, but there is a soul. And the goal for a Jainist is to find enlightenment and to find a kind of tranquil life and find a peaceful life. So we can kind of see that here with the different symbols. Now, a lot of you will probably be drawn down here to this one symbol, which most of you will know as a swastika. Um, as you probably know, the swastika is the opposite direction to this, but it's kind of ironic the fact that one of the most peaceful religions in the world would have a similar symbol to the swastika used by the Nazi regime. Now, if you know Indian culture, you'll know that this swastika, it's still called a swastika, but it's to represent the rising sun and it's to represent peacefulness and enlightenment. So it's not meant to be the swastika that we know, which is representing the Third Reich. So we can kind of see here that there's many different symbols taking part. Now, one thing that I really enjoyed about this mind map was this one piece here that we can see, and it's a commissioned piece, and it would have been a tiled part of a ceiling or a mosaic, and it's really, really intricate. Okay, now I talk about it here on the side. So here we see that the different symbols have been explored and that different forms of art, or that there are different forms of artwork. When looking at religious symbols, it's important to consider the artwork created because this is usually commissioned or paid for by patrons, like patrons of the art, or you'll often hear of a patron saint or patrons of the art. And what they mean by patrons of the arts would mean that it's a person who pays for art or commissions art to be created, or by religious leaders such as priests or monks, okay, or wealthy members in society. This means it's closely controlled and each decision is made by the artist and has to conform to its beliefs of the religion. So we see here where this artwork, this Jainist artwork, is very controlled and very precise. Okay, if you actually look up this image, you'll see how intricate it is and how detailed it is. Now, this artwork actually stems back to Indian culture, where you'll see henna being created, and they have this very geometrical pattern continuing throughout the artwork, and this very detailed piece taking place. Now, I really liked to see this within the mind map, because it's very important when we're thinking about symbolism within religions. We not only think about maybe the crucifixes and the crosses and the jewelry that people might wear, but also the artwork that is displayed in different tapestries and monasteries and temples around the culture that you're looking up. Okay, so if you're looking at or if you're looking at Christianity, maybe you're looking at the churches and the church as a symbol, and maybe how different symbols within the church are shown. And maybe if you were looking at a mosque, or you were looking at a temple for Jainism or Buddhism or anything like that, you might look at the different temples that they create and the different artworks created within the temples. Okay, so that's very important per our slide. Now, in this one, it's just a quick screen grab that I took from one of the PowerPoints created, and I really liked it because it displayed all the different symbols within Buddhism. Now, Buddhism has a lot more symbols, and that was explained in the PowerPoint as well, but these are just some of the main ones that took the students' interest. Now, what I liked about it was it showed the diversity of different symbols and different meanings behind them, and the student explained each one in the PowerPoint. Now, the student also went on to explain about different flags that were shown in Buddhism, or sorry, that would be a symbol of Buddhism, and also explain some less known facts about Buddhism. Okay, so when you're thinking about the different symbolism, it's also good to take maybe some information that you learned about the religion when doing your investigation and put it in, because it kind of builds to your knowledge of the subject matter. So as we can see here, the mind map that we're looking at is linked with the PowerPoint in the previous slide. Now, the student starts by looking at different Buddhist symbolism, and they take you through each single symbol, but they don't stop there. They also look at different symbols connected with Buddhism. So it also looks at the different temples and places of worship, and it also looks at the Buddhist monks. Okay, now we can see a clear distinction between these two, as this is a Chinese temple in Canada, Ling Yen, I think, Ling Yen Mountain. It's a famous temple in Canada that was built by the Chinese. While we can see down here that this is either a Khmer or a monk from Thailand, judging by the red bricks and the clothing that he is wearing. It looks either Cambodian or Thai. Now, it's important to distinguish the different symbolisms between maybe different areas or different countries' beliefs in Buddhism, but it's still interesting to see how you can distinguish different places judging by different symbols, such as the flared roofs, showing the kind of Chinese connection, or seeing the red bricks that were very iconic to the Khmer, the Cambodian temples or the Thai temples. Okay, now this was down to the different types of soil at the areas. Now, this student also looks at Buddhist scripture, and which is important because there's different calligraphy and different writings in the books, and it also looks at other symbols and the breakdowns of the meaning. Okay, now this makes sure that your ideas and your PowerPoints aren't going to be fixated just in one area. In this mind map, we get to take a quick look at Shinto symbolism. Now, this is actually quite interesting because I didn't know anything about Shinto symbolism, and I knew a small bit about the religion and the culture, but I didn't know anything about the symbolism. So it's actually quite interesting just to take a quick look through and the breakdown of each symbol. So this goes into really good detail, but I love how the student combined the imagery with the font and the typography. and the writing up about the different symbols. This is so well done that it could nearly stand alone and be the actual presentation in the PowerPoint. If the student wanted to continue in this way, they wouldn't have to go down the whole PowerPoint route. Sometimes it's quite interesting to see when a student is good at drawing, to see them actually lay out the project like this, and to get them to talk through the different ideas that they had along the way and the different discoveries that they found. So really enjoyed this slide, as you can tell. But it just kind of gives you an idea that it doesn't always have to be on a computer. It can be, well, sorry, I know this is generated on a computer using the IBIS app, but it doesn't always have to be just the normal old PowerPoint, like having your font down on this side and your image on this side. Okay, you can change things up, shake up the boat, and do your own sort of style, and I think it would actually stand out. Okay, so this is just to kind of give you a feel for what other ways you could approach this. Now, some of you may have looked at the last few mind maps and thought, God, that's very complex or it's very tough. And a mind map usually is just a very quick jotted down idea. And I just wanted to show you an example of a good mind map that got the point across, and it outlined exactly what you needed to do. Okay, so here the student was looking at the religion, they were looking at the different symbols within their religion, and you can clearly see how they outlined the different Jewish symbols and how they're actually going to explain it. Okay, so this project isn't about the amount of the amount of quantity within the project. It's more about your understanding and how you have developed an understanding of a religion that you didn't previously know about. Okay, so it's not about having all the bells and whistles and spending hours upon hours laying out this presentation. It's more about picking a religion that you would be interested in discovering and maybe bringing some of that knowledge along to class and maybe teaching us some things. Okay, teaching the whole group about some religion that you didn't know anything about and testing your knowledge on it. Okay, so here we see the Jewish religion and the different symbols outlined clearly on the mind map, and it's clear to see where the student is going to bring their mind map, or sorry, where they're going to bring their PowerPoint, and it says everything it needs to say. Okay? Right, so for the last slide here, we're just going to take a look at today's task. So I just popped up one of the other mind maps us here. It's a really interesting mind map. And excuse me, we're going to take a quick look at what today's task is. So in today's task, what you're going to do is you're going to take your mind map and look at the different symbols, and you had to pick and choose one of the symbols or the first symbol that you come to on your mind map and answer the following questions. Okay, so these questions are, why does your chosen religion use this symbol? Okay, so for instance, the cross, why does Christianity use that symbol for their religion, and what purpose does it serve? Okay, how does your chosen religion display this symbol? So you might think or take a look at flags, ornaments, jewelry. So you might be looking at crucifixes on the wall. You might be thinking of people wearing jewelry as crosses or different flags such as the Union Jack. Okay, so that's just taking a look at the Christian faith. But think about other religions and how they display their religious symbols. Okay. Question 3, is the symbol a part of any rituals in the religion you have chosen? So, for instance, when you bless yourself in Christianity, you're making the symbol of the cross. Is the religion that you've chosen got anything to do with the symbols that you're looking at? Okay, so have a think about that. I actually forgot to outline this in a different color, sorry. Question 4, has this symbol been used or misused in the past? So when we were looking at Jainism and the swastika being misused, and how that was being totally misused in the incorrect way, showing the Nazi the Nazi program and showing how it would represent Hitler and all their belief of the Aryan race, and how it was meant to mean the rising sun. So take a look at the different symbols and think about how it might be misused or how they're using it as a fashion thing or a fashion statement. You often see this symbol here of the lotus flower as tattoos, and people don't know the meaning behind it. Okay, so think about that and how the symbol is used. Okay, are there any rules about the symbol? Such as in Thailand, basically you're not allowed to buy any Buddhist statues or any Buddhist kind of affiliated objects. Also, if you have any tattoos of a Buddha on you, you're not allowed to show it. So if you have a Buddha on your or on your arm, say as a sleeve tattoo, you have to cover it up, or if it's on your leg, and they will not let you through customs unless it's covered up. And also, if you're walking down the street, people will call you out on it if they see a tattoo of a Buddha or of a different Buddhist figure in religion or symbol of religion. Okay, now there's a lot of different rules about different symbols, such as the Christian cross. If it's held upside down, it's the sign of the devil, so that would be a rule about the symbol that it has to be held in a certain direction. But maybe take a look at your symbol that you're choosing and try find out, is there any rules surrounding these symbols? Okay, or are these symbols only for the actual people who are worshipping this religion, and is it seen as an insult for someone else to use this symbol? Okay, so have a think about it and take a look and see what you come up with.